What do you want to see more of in your field of creativity?
In my field, I would love to see more diversity and creativity. Being that so my my manga, which is called XrossMancer, is seven American students traveling to Japan to finish their senior of high school, and it's a shonen, it's a shanga,
It's,
and anyone that has seen anime or read manga, what happens in Japanese high schools. So you can expect that kind of thing happening.
Mhm.
um,
I'm
so
guessing Shanga is a
it,
mix of shonen manga. You'd say.
no, yeah. Well, wait, is that a new? Is that a new?
Oh, I thought I heard you
I
say
I don't.
Shanga. Yeah, or something. But
Oh no, yeah, yeah. No, yeah, shonen manga, yeah, shonen, whatever.
okay, right. I understand.
um, yeah, but so a lot of my characters are BIPOC characters. Um, that's because I mean, obviously, I'm a black creator, so I draw from what I know and what I would like to see, and I would like to see more um, bi- BIPOC characters in the fantasy space. There's just not a lot of it. I even and I pay attention to these things. It's one of the things because that's what I want to see. So like Lord of the Rings, one of my favorites, and they came out with the show recently on I think Amazon Prime or something like that. And then the first thing I notice is there are a lot of BIPOC hobbits, or and different characters that are just like BIPOC, and I'm like, where were these characters in the original movies?
Hmm.
Like, I'm like, this is because it's a prequel to the movies, about Sauron, the beginning with Sauron and stuff like that. So I'm just like, okay, well, I like this, but like now I'm kind of like the continuity is kind of screwed. Like don't do it for the media coverage. Do it because you want to put BIPOC people in a fantasy space. So but that's neither here nor there. I mean, I'm sure the show was great. I never finished it. I was just too busy working on my own IPs. So
I guess that's where a lot of things lie. It's like when you see something that's very wonky in media,
hmm
even when
hmm
something that you can agree to at the same
right,
time is you can look at it and say, I'm kind of glad they're doing something that I would like to see out in the world, but at the
right,
same time, I'm making the change that I want to see, or I'm making the content that I want to see, and because it's coming from you, it matters way more than what other people who may not care that much about the message that they're supposedly trying to say is trying
right.
to show other people who may or may not supposedly care. You know,
hmm
I guess that
Definitely.
that's very. I can agree to that. What is in your opinion diversity?
Diversity is I guess, not telling. I don't want to use the word telling. I guess exemplifying of different cultures and backgrounds. So, you know, that was I know in social media. I know that was a big thing with the Lord of the Rings prequel. Is that there was a lot of uproar about black elves, and given like elves don't have a specific skin tone. I mean, and then people tried to bring in the lore of it, this, that, and the other. I didn't read too much into it, but the fact that there was just such an immediate outcry against it, I was just like, why? But why? Like why? Who and why made these solid rules on different fantasy, unlike not real things. Like, no one said, yes, elves, they have to be porcelain skin from here to throughout time. Like, like these are all made up stories, and of course, throughout time, different stories will arise with different types of backgrounds. I try to like give specific examples because like obviously we have many different facets of high fantasy characters in America, but I'm like, do you think that in let's say India or Indonesia, for example, do you think that they're drawing all of their characters with porcelain skin? No. If they want to draw elves, I'm sure they're going to draw them with brown skin and in their perspective country, and that's how they see their fantasy.
Hmm.
Their fantasy might be different from ours, and based on the clothing, the type of things. But I would like to see more of that mixed in with the mainstream that we have here in America, because I'm pretty sure that we are the leaders of exampling different types of media like that.
Okay. I feel like that really goes into the question of how context within fantasy matters, or does it matter when it comes to like making, or when it comes to reinterpretations of different fantasy creatures.
Mhm.
What are your like? I would ask like a what are your thoughts on that? Because like yes, things are like, of course these things are not real,
Right.
and they're not revered in any way, shape, or form. They're not exempt. They're probably not made to exemplify something that's beyond ourselves.
Hmm.
And in reality, I don't hold. I guess I shouldn't hold. Don't hold me accountable to this. But like with
Yes.
a lot of fantasy races, they were supposed to be like allegories of different like races of
I see.
people.
Yeah.
So, and of course, with all, well, I think with a lot of things with fantasy nowadays, they do delve into topics of like groupthink or racism, to put in a much broader aspect, because it's all about how people from different cultures and different beliefs are forced to live in one landmass, and
Hmm.
showing, and like within a lot of fantasy stories, it's about how these different beings can
Right.
probably not coexist, but exist within their own little pockets, and sometimes they will fight, as every living beings do.
Right.
But when we try to, I think, as all living things do, don't you think that a preserving that kind of weird, even though it might come from like a little like probably like a racist like
Background.
background, like what doesn't come from a racist background?
Yeah.
It's like
Right. Right.
have you opened up a book, like a history book,
Right.
not even a
Exactly.
history book, just a book, like
Just any book. Any book.
any book,
That's it. That's where it came
like
from.
like it's kind of thinking like, okay, maybe this is a fact of reality, and instead of just swapping like the core tenets of like why those contexts exist,
Hmm.
maybe we can work with it,
Hmm.
and maybe we can work with it and try to tell stories basing around it. Because personally, when I see like black elves, or like different types of races, that kind of humanoid races with like different skin tones, I that makes me ask a lot of questions. Like, why is their skin tone like that? Like, we have like we're both black, so like we have
Hmm.
these skin tones because we are from a people that like they needed to have like this skin tone to survive in the environment,
Hmm.
that to survive in this environment. And this happened throughout, like this doesn't happen like yesterday. It happened throughout several years, to in order to
Right.
like have us, so we can have the genetic makeup with what we have today. But when you have like elves and dragon people that are supposed to live in like that environment, that's
Right.
only made specifically for them, and yet there's still a lot of things are getting mixed mash. It's kind of weird. Like that's kind of like weird because I feel like that would be a better story to tell.
Right,
Of
right. The reason of why their race has mutated as such, in a
yeah,
sense.
instead of
Yeah.
saying yeah, instead of people, I feel like people would get mad or getting mad at the wrong things. I
Oh
would
yeah.
say like, hey, instead of saying, hey, there shouldn't be black elves, the better, the better question, the better statement would be like, hey, why is that? Okay, I would say like this: why are there black elves? Turning that
Mm-hmm.
into, hey, why are there black elves? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and then
Or why aren't the elves black or any other color of that? You
yeah,
know?
like
Yeah.
why did they need it to be black? And I feel like
Mm-hmm.
that is a more of an interesting story than
Mm-hmm.
telling a story that everybody already knows
Right.
and it's everybody already knows, and instead put what we know from the existing storylines and
Mm-hmm.
bring that lore into a different part of the world where these kinds of people had to live with all these different kind of animalistic races and
Mm-hmm.
see how they would like not like how they would have to deal with their different needs and wants because I'm pretty sure dragon and lizard people would require different things than like humanoid
Right.
fantasy people and
Right.
just having a whole like having a whole storyline based around that and like it just turns into a story about resources and that's what a lot of wars are about and like
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they're like the whole case of diversity. It can be there, like it is
Mm-hmm.
there, but people
Right.
are looking at it at the at the wrong areas. What do you think about that?
Well, so yeah, I 100% agree. And what they are doing is they are inserting their own grievances and the way they perceive, I guess, just their in their real world personalities. They're just like like you said, they're not reading into why it is. They're reading into just like, oh, this is what I think. I haven't done the research. This is all I've known. But you haven't stopped to ask the question of why. Like, why are dwarves only human? You never see a dwarf, like like, I mean, maybe in like a D&D game, like a dragonborn, like a dwarf dragonborn. Where are
Mhm.
those? Because I mean, as far as I know, most of the short people that exist in the real world don't all have beards. It's like that's just something that we created in the fantasy space that for some reason suck, and they're all, I think, what, Scottish, something.
Yeah.
Yeah. With these accents, where, and you just don't, the question of why and making up new things is just rarely there. The show Castlevania on Netflix
Hmm.
has done a great job of doing some diversity stuff, and it doesn't muck up the already existing fantasy space. You've got I'm pretty sure they were Caribbean um, vampire hunters that, and they've got accents, they've got their own background and how it affected them, and they take some lore from the real world, twist it and turn it however they want to and for their specific story. And so that goes along with your why is this way, and then they explain it to you throughout the story of how they came to be into the spot that they are.
Hmm. What was that? Well, there was a phrase like that, like something disbelief, like context. Like, do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't think so. I don't know.
It's like a within a certain story,
Mhm.
you are allowed.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, like, you can't, like, it has to be
Yeah,
believable.
it has to be
To
believable, But when you take too many things, if you take like too many, if you add too many ingredients to the pot,
Right.
you kind of are left with something where somebody who is familiar with the source material, when they look at the pot, they're like, this isn't soup. Like, you just threw everything
Right.
from the refrigerator and you're just putting it
Right.
on my plate.
Right. Yeah. You're just like,
But
yeah, and that's what and a lot of people are doing that. I mean, the market is oversaturated with just or people who are inexperienced in the field of storytelling and artistry, have the who have the access to make these things and put it out there and sell it as such. And that's why that goes back to me saying knowing the science of art, knowing the science of storytelling. Like, there are specific ingredients that go into these things that make the baseline, that make them what they are.
mhm.
And then from that baseline, you add your own personal spin on it, you add your own advanced techniques on it. And that's when you really start getting into diversity, you start getting into creativity. It's yeah, and it's just it brings a whole new light to things that we already know as fantasy and all this stuff that we do, solo, especially being like me being an indie creator.
Mhm.
um I try to keep that I don't know how to say it, like the normality of fantasy, but adding in things to the point where, like you said, it has to be believable.
Yes.
And as long as it's believable to a point where someone's like, "Hey, wait a minute," it's just like, then it should work. It should work, and it should feel familiar. It should feel relevant. It should feel relatable. That's a big thing. A lot of people don't realize, it's if it's not relatable, people will turn it off. It'll be like, I don't even know what I'm watching. Who is the story for? It has to be for someone.
This is that kind of okay. First off, I want to say suspension of disbelief. That was that was the phrase.
Suspension of
Yes,
disbelief.
that's what it
Gotcha.
was. That's what it was. And to the second part, that's more closer to what you just left off with. Um, there are it makes me more fascinated when there are shows where the point is that everybody is irredeemable. I think Arrested Development is like one. Always Sunny in Philadelphia is another, and Friends, I believe,
Hmm.
was another one. A lot of comedy series where it's just seeing terrible people get their comeuppance,
Yeah.
and I guess that's like the suspension of disbelief. Going back, like looping that back when it comes to writing characters that are unrelatable. Well,
Hmm.
actually, maybe they are. maybe,
They're
they are.
relatable.
They are relatable, but like they're
They're
relatable
just
in a sense that's like
right.
I wish I wasn't like this.
Right. I was like, I don't know if you want to be around those relatable people.
Yeah,
Like, it's
these guys are too
yes.
relatable.
Yeah, like no one. I mean, Joey from Friends, it's like, I don't know if I want to be around this guy.
Yeah,
Oh man.
that's
So yeah,
unfortunate.
it's
But
definitely a different concept, but
yeah,